Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a San Diego homeowner trying to upgrade your comfort and efficiency, you've probably been eyeing heat pumps. But almost instantly, you hit this massive wall of anxiety, right? The dreaded electrical panel upgrade. You stare at that gray metal 100-amp box on your house and just think, no way is this going to be enough. Honestly, there is a ton of confusion out there about whether modern heat pumps absolutely mandate a heavy-duty 200-amp service. So today, we're going to cut right through all that noise with clear, actionable facts straight from local experts. I mean, just look at these numbers, $1,500 to $4,000. That's the typical going rate for a 100 to 200 amp panel upgrade around San Diego. It's a huge hit to any renovation budget. And when people hear that number, a lot of them just scrap their heat pump plans entirely. But here's the major twist we're unpacking today. Most homes in our area might not actually need to pay a dime of this. Upgrading the panel is often the exception, not the rule. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the 100-amp myth, then see how load calculations work, dive into the San Diego climate advantage, look at some awesome alternatives to panel upgrades, and finally wrap up with when upgrades are mandatory. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the 100-amp myth, busting assumptions. The very first hurdle we have to clear is this baked-in idea that adding a heat pump automatically pulls the trigger on a 200-amp panel. This myth has spread like wildfire. You see it on forums, you hear it from your neighbors, and honestly, you might even hear it from contractors who are still relying on outdated rules of thumb instead of actual math. But check out this quote. Whether you need 200-amp service depends on your total electrical demand, not on the heat pump by itself. That really hits the nail on the head. The heat pump is rarely the sole deal breaker here. Think of your electrical panel like a highway. Whether there's a traffic jam doesn't just depend on one new car entering the on-ramp, right? It depends on how many other cars are already on the road. Do you need a 200-amp service? Well, that's entirely about your home's total electrical demand. We have to look at the whole shebang. So if we can't trust the old rules of thumb, what do we do? That brings us to Section 2, load calculations, finding the truth. This is where we shift from guessing and stressing out to using an actual, actionable tool, the ultimate source of truth. It's called a load calculation. Specifically, for existing homes, California's electrical code uses NEC Article 220.83. Now, this isn't just an electrician squinting at your breaker box and making a guess. It's a standardized mathematical method. An electrician literally tallies up your existing demand, your lights, kitchen appliances, laundry, water heater, and then adds the new heat pump on top of that. Then they compare that grand total to what your main service can safely handle. And the best part? A qualified electrician can knock this calculation out in about an hour. To put that into perspective, look at this number here, 24,000. A standard 100-amp panel running at 240 volts can safely carry 24,000 volt-amps of load. Basically, that's the baseline capacity you're working with. When the electrician runs that load calculation, as long as the grand total of your home's electrical demand stays under that 24,000 threshold, well, your 100-amp panel has the room. You fit. Absolutely no upgrade required. And honestly, here's where so many local homeowners come out ahead. Think about the older homes in neighborhoods like North Park, La Mesa, Ocean Beach, or even up in Encinitas. These places often use gas for their heavy lifting appliances. We're talking the range, the water heater, the clothes dryer. Because those big appliances aren't sucking up electricity, your baseline electrical demand is incredibly low. That leaves a massive amount of headroom within that 24,000 volt amp limit for a brand new heat pump. Now, you might be wondering, if it's really this straightforward, why is the 200 amp myth so widespread? Well, the answer lies in Section 3. Climate advantage. Let's see why geography matters so much here. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where that 200 amp assumption comes from. See, in cold climates, heat pumps often have to rely on electric resistance backup heat. People usually call them heat strips, just to keep the house warm when temperatures really plummet. And those heat strips are total power hogs. I mean, they can draw 40 to 60 amps all by themselves. That massive draw is exactly what pushes homes in colder states straight onto a 200 amp service. But here in San Diego, our winters are mild. A properly sized heat pump handles our heating load without ever needing those power-hungry strips, which means you add 0 extra amps for backup heat. Let's actually break down the power draw. As you'll see, a 2-ton unit, which is great for a small home or an ADU, typically only needs a 20 to 25 amp breaker. A 3-ton for an average San Diego home needs about 25 to 30 amps. Even a 4-ton unit for a larger inland home only needs 30 to 40 amps. And keep in mind, the breaker is sized for the absolute maximum the unit can pull. Modern, inverter-driven heat pumps have an everyday running draw that is way, way lower than these numbers. They draw far less power than most people expect. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if the electrician runs the math and your 100-amp panel actually is full? Are you automatically stuck with that $4,000 upgrade? Not necessarily. Let's move to Section 4, Upgrade Alternatives. Let's look at some cheaper paths. Let's see how this builds a safety net for your budget. There are 4 code-recognized workarounds here. First, if you're replacing an old central AC with a heat pump, a lot of times you can just reuse the old AC circuit. You're basically trading one 240-volt load for another, making it pretty much a net zero change to your panel. Second is a load management device. Third, you can choose a soft start or low amp heat pump to minimize that initial power spike. And fourth, like we just talked about, skip those unnecessary resistance heat strips entirely. Let's actually zoom in on that second option because, honestly, it's a real game changer. A load management device, which is recognized under NEC Article 750, is basically a smart controller for your electrical panel. It physically prevents 2 major loads from pulling peak power at the exact same time, so your panel literally never gets overwhelmed. Remember that massive $1,500 to $4,000 upgrade cost? Well, a load management device only costs a few $100. It lets your new heat pump safely share capacity on your existing panel for a fraction of the price. It's fantastic. Of course, we want to be completely straight with you. There are absolutely times when paying for an electrical upgrade isn't just an upsell, but a genuine requirement. So, Section 5, Mandatory Upgrades. Let's talk about when you actually need it. So the crucial point is, what actually breaks the camel's back here? Usually, it's mass electrification. If you're adding a heat pump, plus an EV charger, plus an electric range, and a heat pump water heater all at the exact same time, yeah, you're gonna max out a 100-amp panel. The combined load is what triggers it. Second, if your house has an older recalled panel brand that's a known fire hazard, like Zincsco or Federal Pacific, you absolutely must upgrade for safety regardless of the heat pump. And finally, if the load calc genuinely comes back over capacity and a load management device just won't fit the bill, then an upgrade is the honest answer. Now, if you do fall into that mandatory upgrade category, or even if you're just getting a new 240-volt circuit added for the heat pump, it has to be done by the book. Step 1, your contractor must pull an electrical permit. Step 2, they coordinate disconnecting and reconnecting the meter with SDG&E. And Step 3, you have to pass a city or county inspection. Please do not skip this. An inspection catches undersized wires and overloaded panels before they turn into severe fire risks. If a contractor ever tells you a heat pump doesn't need an electrical permit, they are cutting a very dangerous corner. Which brings us to the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. When you're getting quotes to upgrade your home's HVAC, ask this one simple, provocative question before agreeing to any expensive electrical work. Did your contractor actually run the numbers? If they're trying to sell you a $4,000 panel upgrade without having done a formal load calculation first, well, they're basically guessing with your money. Don't let them. Demand the calculation, explore the alternatives, and take control of your home upgrade. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.